Life is in the business of creating life. It is an unfolding process of creation as we move ahead. We see and then we don't see, and then we see again. Who is the catalyst of all this? We take meaningful leaps into uncertainty on a quest to create what matters to us, what inspires us, what moves us, what changes us. Where do creations come from? Is it silence, relationship, from what's wanting to emerge? Join me, John Davidson, on this learning journey, reaching into the creative process to find the places where creations come from. Who is the catalyst? Happiness is the booby prize of creating what matters to you. Number 5. Empty to empty. Despite having so many things to entertain ourselves with, most people in the United States are unhappy. Gross domestic product is up. Gross national happiness is down. How could that be? As we work more, our quality of life diminishes. Work has become one of the many fixes to offset an empty life full of despair. Occupation means being occupied with something else. We are a culture that distracts itself purposely. We ourselves are consumed by our hunger for consumption and decaying our life energies in small and petty gratifications that lessen our sense of aliveness. Why? People act because they have nothing more compelling to do. Without a better place to go, conditioning from the past takes over the way a vacuum sucks up anything in its path. Fear, cynicism, judgment. These take the wheel in the conversations with life. When we bring these to our current reality, they shape our patterns of behavior due to a successive set of reactions and responses that have ultimately become automatic over time through repetition. Our personality shapes our reality as we relate more with habitual thought than our intimacy with the immediate experience. And this leads to two trends. Change our personality or ourselves. Change our environment, our life content. Both seem like decent proposals, and yet they neglect to consider a fundamental trap that ambushes success. They are motivated by something unwanted that must be removed. And once it is removed, so too is the action taken to remove it. When this occurs, the symptom, the bad self, the bad environment, tends to resurface. We come back to a common theme swelling within us. Something is wrong, and I have to fix it to be happy. We recognize a problem, we become a problem solver, instead of developing the kind of resilience to the existing state. I call this the return to despair. You begin without, and you end without. Temporary triumph leads to disappearances. The action begins as it is organized from emptiness and despair. And when we think we have filled the hole, whatever we do does not quench our thirst. Whether it be drugs, sex, emotional conflict, anger, compulsive thinking, overworking, self-medicating, coping, or any of the behaviors or materials, none of these have any lasting effects of filling the void we are desperately attempting to offset. And these elements bring emptiness right back in greater amounts than before. We become susceptible to short-term arousals to regulate the stress of a life trapped in circumstances out of our control, and we seek temporary fixes despite the negative consequences. We need a fix to keep the emptiness away again and again despite these negative consequences, and the fix is only a substitute for real living. The more fix, the more emptiness continues in a vicious cycle. Do we end the fix or do we end the emptiness? Neither becomes possible because they have a dangerous love affair. We overconsume and overindulge only to end up sick later. Our quick fixes are like throwing water on a squeaky wheel. It may fix the problem temporarily, but over time the wheel rusts and decays. When we attempt to offset repetitiveness, we break our traditions to try and find a better high than before, only to find that we're moving furniture around in the prison cell of our past. This is similar to a partier hopping from club to club, trying to find a better hit than the last one. What if the source of action was a different one than emptiness? What if it was a sincere, heartfelt interest in creating something that matters? Emptiness would not be relevant to such a thing, would it? It would still be there, but the aspiration would not arise from lacking of something missing. Instead, the urge would be to bring something into life that did not exist before. Empty or non-empty is not a prerequisite for creating. Instead, power flows from our creations, not our moods or attitudes. Empty, bored, depressed, anxious, sad, glad, we all have emotional circuitry built into us. We feel what we feel, and yet our creations we create. Relationships, careers, projects, goals, aspirations, health, all are things that we choose to create as we envision their desired state. Creating begins with a lovely image of the future that you seek to create. It starts with a different kind of emptiness than one of despair and discomfort. In fact, the emptiness in the creative process is bringing nothing with you. To create, you start with nothing, but not the nothing composed of despair, as if the desired outcome is sought to remove the unwanted certain condition. You work on behalf of future creation and build it as it emerges. It is created separate from what you know, instead of removing something unwanted. You might call this making space or creating a future rather than predicting a future. You begin with an idea. The germination of this idea expands itself like a tiny seed, which tendrils into a tree with branches. Then you learn to see keenly what is going on now in comparison to what you want to create. Action is taken to reveal new information and capacity building through adjustments between what is working or not working. You must empty out emptiness and come to terms with the fact that we actually are. Nothing will cure it. We can only know it and be known by it. It is a wider space within us that has no need to change. It is nowhere. It's nothing. It has no form. It's the place from which beginnings happen. And it's just vastness. It's space. The nature of it is resourcefulness. It is the passage of something wanting to take form, a rich space out of which creations come forth. It is not made of scarcity. It is not made of a self. Rather, it is the silence where structures emerge. All that can be said about it is that it is the truth disconfirming the past. It is the truth that has not happened yet, knowledge not readily embodied, but pregnant with potential. It is like creating a clearing, making room for something in you other than what you know. It itches to be known and described just as it is, truth-telling without any argument. Truth-telling is required to describe current reality accurately, to know what to change and where to change it. It's like a learning ally, a piece of feedback. Whether it's good or bad or ugly, can we perceive it as accurately as possible? Can we tell ourselves the truth? I suppose that's an acquired taste. Notice that none of this is born from the need to be fulfilled or satisfied. These are not used in the creative process. Bad, good days, highs, lows, they're all taken into account and considered normal. Creating is not about these conditions because circumstances and feelings do not drive action in the creative process. Choice drives action. This obedience to a choice is what leaves the need to be satisfied or fulfilled on the bleachers. It is a shift of dominance away from reacting and responding to creating. You might call it a shift of orientation or coming to terms with life. Learning happens by bringing creations into existence that are deeply desired. Would this make us happier? I believe it would. It would get us out of our heads and more interested in something being brought into the world that constantly affirms our existence and helps find who we are. We are the only species on the planet that is overly concerned with who we are. Why aren't dogs concerned too? Make self-improvement a hobby instead of a goal. You've been listening to The Catalyst with John Davidson. If you'd like to purchase the Catalyst book, just go down below this video, and in the description part, you will find a link. You can click there for lulu.com, and you'll find the hardcover of the book, The Catalyst, that I have written for my 3 children. I so appreciate the opportunity to be on this learning journey with you, and I encourage you to continue listening to these audio chapters of The Catalyst. Thank you so much.